So Vitor, now that this fight with Oscar is a reality, just tell me what you're feeling right now as we get closer and closer to it.
The feeling is hard to explain. It's what you've been through it, what we did for both sports. I box in a totally different hemisphere. With boxing, my boxing style was coming from where first of all with no gloves, then gloves, 4 ounces, 3 ounces, you say. And my whole life has been evolving as a striker, as a combat artist that you're looking to finish. That's been my whole career. It's like, how can I finish this opponent? They're bigger than mine. They're 300 pounds. So it's this being my strength is being preparing for anything. And that's how boxing was fit in my style. Boxing since 13 years old. I made the Olympic team in 2000. I could not go due to a knee injury that I had. I trained with the best guys. My first boxing training in America actually was Oscar's first trainer as well. His name is Al Stanky. So watching the whole thing of how boxing was predominant and is very amazing for the fighter, where you can make as much as you can, but also you can transition. So Oscar did an amazing thing for boxing in the ring, but also outside of the ring as a promoter. So it's a legacy fight. It's a legend fight that you cannot miss it.
Could you have ever, when all this time that you've been fighting in MMA, could you have ever imagined a day where you would box and you would box against someone like Oscar De La Hoya? And what does that mean to you to get in the ring with him?
So it means that you paved the way, and looking back to what's going on right now, Oscar's fighting a real fighter, not like Mayweather looking for a YouTuber who has 1 loss and 0 wins. So he's fighting with the guy who holds the most knockout in UFC history until today. And we both opened the Red Sea for our sports, for this next generation who came, who boxers became a promoter because of him. He won the gold medals, and I could not achieve that because this is one of the greatest things to become an Olympian. So I think Oscar did everything. He's no doubt the best boxer of all time. And for me to be able to compete against him and be able to go toe-to-toe with the best boxer, so it's a dream come true, no doubt about it. But, it's hard work.
Oscar was just sitting with us and he got really emotional talking about, his past and just the journey to this point. What type of energy and mentality do you bring into this fight? Like, do you feel like you're in a really good place as you're about to get into the ring with him?
Yeah, so for me, fighting, it's been my whole life. Imagine for me as an immigrant living in Brazil at 16 years old, convincing my dad that MMA become the biggest sport of all time. Dropping 8th grade, have my dad and my mom sign a letter, give me $1,000 because they don't have money, coming to America, and 2 years later, I become the youngest champion in UFC history. And back in the time, I remember I saw the fight with Oscar with Chavez, and I said, this is not fair. We make just little money, and these boxers having to be, and why is not the feud is not fair, and still today it's not fair. But I had a kid, I had a dream, and I went to search for this dream. So I know what's hard work. I know what not having, sleeping in the gym for 2 years, dreaming, watching, said I want to become the fierce fighters of all time. And I've been evolving because in MMA to become successful, you got to know how to strike. And then boxing being my top martial arts that I evolve and I become master of it. So striking from different angles. So for what Oscar did, not many guys did what he did. So he has to be emotional. But like I said, you have to be emotional but unemotional. So every athlete, you got to learn how to control your emotions, because your emotions can be your enemy, and most of the time is your enemy. So you making decision on emotion, you made bad decisions. So my job and my team job is just to train to execute. So basically, if you're a Navy SEAL, you become an emotion in war, you're going to die. If you're fighting, you're fighting an emotion, because everything is emotion, but we cannot be emotion. So it's learning how to control and how to master your emotions, because I can feel one way and act other way. That's the master of life, you know.
What about mastering the art of boxing? What is the actual training like and going to be like for these next?
Feet. Your feet, it has to move. So your body has to go with your feet. So the problem with a lot of boxers and a lot of MMA guys, they don't know how to balancing their feet and their hips. So I study biomechanic, and I create many ways. I developed many ways to punching, walking. I have to create martial arts, adapting, striking from karate, kung fu. So, I was watching Bruce Lee documentary and I say, great, I'm the Bruce Lee of MMA, because I didn't went to Hollywood. I went to real fighting, and so it's literally what I did in MMA. It was phenomenal. Until today, no one can beat my record as a knockout artist. So my goals is being to finishing fights. That's what people like it. People want to see the finish. So it's gonna be. I'm gonna be boxing with a guy who knows how to move his feet. He has speed. His jab is great, fantastic. So I've been training for that, and how can I go and impose my will? That's the other thing, is impose your will.
Typically, how this goes when the MMA fighter enters the boxing ring is, historically, we see it doesn't go very well for the MMA fighter. But we did just see Anderson Silva have great success against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. What do you take away from his performance? Inspirationally, tactically, what you saw? Is there anything that you can take from Anderson's performance and the way he approached that?
It's just you have to be who you are. We're individual. We're different. Everyone has your own story. He was boxing a guy. He's like not even 10% of Oscar. I'm boxing a real box. I'm boxing the best boxer of all time. So I'm boxing a guy who really know how to move and how to execute. So it's hard to compare apples to apples. So and that's frustration when you come out to that. So the idea of me focus on me, focus in my strength, develop my strength, and I know my strength. I'm a guy who can move, who can box. I used to box Anderson Silva. I used to whip him. He's the most afraid guy. I promise he will never want to box me. I promise. And if he does, I will love it. But I promise, because I know how to box. I spent 1 year in Cuba training with all the Cubans. So I learned the art of boxing. The art of boxing is like you have to move your feet. You have to execute. You got to have a great jab. Your jab, everything run through your jab. So it's matching. It's like chess. So, and the way I box is just differently. I'm looking for the angles. My punches are sometimes can be awkward because I adapt all the martial arts into my boxing.
Is this fight with Oscar, is this a one-off, Vitor, or should we expect you to continue doing more boxing after this?
I'm looking for great opponents. Holyfield is one of them. Triller is trying to make that fight. I'm looking to fight the best guys. I'm ready to step. This you guys have to understand. This is not exhibition. We're not a YouTuber here. We have legacy. It's a generation thing. We're not talking about guys going there and just putting up a freaking show that is no meaning. That is no legacy, and that's what Mayweather and the other kid, with one loss and 0 wins. How embarrassing this for a fighter to fight a guy like that. A guy like, Mayweather, a great boxer. So I take respect for Oscar. Oscar's jumping to fight one of the fierce men of MMA history. So this is a real fight. And with real fighters, with real history, with legacy. It's a legendary fight. You cannot miss it. It's putting generation in the same room. What Triller has been done, never been done in entertaining in the whole world. They're putting a show that is pleasing the grandkids, the sons. So you're putting everyone in one room. You can be watching. Your kids can be watching the PlayStation and watching the fights with your friends in their room, and you have your sons and your grandkids. So everyone at the same house. So I have all the respect for Ryan and Triller team that putting this amazing thing that I promise you guys. September 11th, it's going to be a week the guys will never forget.
Peter, what was it like getting this fight? Describe the process. When were you approached about it?
A picture came into my mind, the word legacy. That's the only word I see was legacy and generation. It's like they're putting up two guys who opened the Red Sea on their sports, thinking about going back. If you rewind what Oscar did, he's not just a world champion in boxing, he's an Olympian champion. He became the first boxer to become a promoter. He discovered many other guys. So he literally shifting the industry into totally different direction. And what I did for the sport, I opened the Red Sea, I opened markets in Brazil, Russia, in places like never done before. So we are colliding in a boxing event. And by the way, it's not exhibition, it's a real fight. So this is a legendary in generations. This is like people calling me and saying, wow, who made that? Who was the people who can make that? And I see Ryan is giving to the fans and to the people, said, I can make something that never been done before. So you have to reserve the whole week, not just one day, the whole week. You guys got to participate on this.
Can you discuss more your experience in Cuba, training with boxing? Obviously, the
experience is amazing. And until today, you guys know Sullivan Barrera we train all the hours helping him for his fight. So I train with Solis, I train with Bringudiao, I train Felix Savon was kind of leaving the team back in the day. So I had an amazing experience to understanding the distance, the how they box, the Cuban boxing. It's equivalent is what they did in Russia. So it's like now style. You have the Puerto Rican, you have the Mexican. So it's pretty fun. So example, when I study Oscar, he's very square. He's a lefty. People don't know. I know he's a lefty, but he become awkward. So his jab, it's a very powerful tool because he's a lefty in a sense. So, but he's square, so has open over there. So it's a lot of things. Boxing, I study the feet. I look into the feet, how their feet are. They're open. The organs are open. I'm looking for your body. I heard he wants to come into my body. So I would love that fight. So it's going to be interesting. And like I said, I'm a killer. Every time I try to fight out of my instincts, I didn't win. So if a lion trying to become another type of animal, he loses his strength. So Oscar has his strength. Belfort has his strength. We're working our strength is who can prevail. That's why you guys cannot miss this fight. This is going to be, I think, the fight of the century, no doubt about it.
He's mentioning that you guys are going to get down. Can you speak for him as well?
You have two guys with big huevos. They have cojones. They're fighters. They're not YouTubers. They're not we are entertainers, but we entertainers for the real things. I remember Oscar. Oscar changed boxing. Oscar changed boxing. You guys got to remember. He changed the way boxing is. If it wasn't for Oscar, Mayweather wouldn't exist. If it wasn't for Belfort, McGregor wouldn't exist. It's guys that change the scope. It's literally like everybody knows the Red Sea, If it wasn't for Moses snapping in with faith and open the Red Sea, they would die on that desert. So I see us as a Red Sea open. We open the Red Sea right now. But right now, what we're doing, we open the Red Sea. We're putting a ring in the middle, and the show is on, Triller. So you cannot miss that.
Vitor, I got to ask you this. How much motivation do you take from Anderson Silva beating Chavez Jr.?
My motivation doesn't come from no man. If your motivation comes from somebody else, you're a failure. You can only be motivated by you. It's an individual. And today, everybody's a life coach. It's funny. Everybody's an expert. If you read the social media, it's everybody knows and now everybody's expert in Bitcoin. Everybody's an expert in everything. So you got to know what you do, what you're good at, and what you're not good at. So my motivation comes from knowing who I am, my identity. What I have to work on me, stick with me, and in double, I call it the double of a letter. Me, when you flip the M, become we. If you don't have a team, you cannot win.
Oscar gave you a huge compliment. I just asked him what fighter in his history do you rely on? And he said Bernard Hopkins and Mayorga. What do you think about that?
It's like this, man. Coming from Oscar, he's like everything that comes from Oscar, he knows. He knows boxing from inside and out. And a lot of boxers, they just know inside. He knows inside and out. Oscar is a master of a boxing. So I'm fighting a master. So I gotta watch for everything he does. He's sneaky. He knows. He looked at the place and he used his hand. So I'm going to his world. It's like I'm going to his jungle. So I really gotta make my feet ready, stay balanced, stay calm, get collective, understand that it's gonna be a war, but in the end of the day, it's a legacy. We're doing this with a legacy purpose and generation purpose. So never been done before. It's a historical moment for combat sport in general.
Oscar said before this that he described it as the fight's going to be hell, but he's ready to go to hell and back. How much would you savor it if Oscar's willing to stand in the pocket and trade with you in this fight?
Yeah, I believe, if he does so, he knows what's going to be there. He explained it. So I don't see as hell. I don't like hell. Hell is a place of negativity. I see as joy. For me, stay in the pocket is joyful. I love, when I was in the pocket with Sulami Barrera, I was in the pocket with a lot of sparring partners fighting. I love it. It's a great, so remember, if you don't have joy in what you do is a burden. So I describe hell as a negative, and I don't let nothing come negative into my mind. I'm looking for war. I'm excited for it. It's like this. If a Navy SEAL are not excited to go overseas, the probability he comes in a coffin is huge. So I'm looking this as a heavenly place for me is to stay on the pocket with Oscar.
You look in great shape. The jacket barely fits you.
Yeah, I took that jacket from my son. So
Are you still training any mixed martial arts, like on the side, or is it everything 100% boxing right now?
if you understand my life, I have 3 amazing athletes in my 3 amazing kids, an amazing wife. My son is the number 1 quarterback in the nation. My daughter is the number 1 outside hitter in the nation volleyball, and my other daughter is the number 1 gymnast in the East Coast. So I train them since they're young. In my house, it's like this. We are habit human beings. You do what you do daily. You eat, you drink, you think. You are your thoughts, not just your food. What you eat, you put it. But also, the most important thing is what you think of yourself. So when I think of myself, I have the same integrity of walking in this room here that I have the same integrity when I walk into my house. So I'm the same guy everywhere. So when one of my daughters and my son say, "Dad, you know what I like about you?" A lot of athletes there have to have different hats. They are one person, but they actually live in another double life called double agent. Say, "Dad, you have integrity." And I say, "Son, when you have integrity, you'll be successful in anything you do." So that's my roles. We are living habits. So my life is training. So this is my hobby. It's a consequence of my hobby. I don't work one day of my life. And I encourage you, all of you guys, if you're holding this camera, make this your hobby. Promise you guys are going to become the best reporter of all time. If you're in school, you have to be in school. Make school your hobby. Make school because you're going to retain, because you're spending that time in your school. And that's the problem with kids today. They're doing what they hate to do. They become accountant and want to become marketing. So make sure you live your dream, not your parents' dream. Make sure your parents support your dream. So I encourage parents, I encourage educators, teachers, encourage whoever's sitting of you to fall in love with that. If you fall in love with the process, I promise the reward is great.
Vito, what was first for you? Was it MMA or did you go to boxing?
I live in a very tough area in Brazil, and back in the day it was vale tudo, everything goes. And I remember I was putting people down on the street. It was concrete, so we have to go to this, participate on that gang that we protect the neighborhood. You have to go through some fights, and our mouthpiece was like a toilet paper. We put wet toilet paper in the nose and in the mouth, and we spar. And people take people down. And the guy said, "Victor, if you go to Vale Tudo and you learn how to strike, what about you become the first jiu-jitsu guy who learned how to strike?" and I become a boxer. And I start boxing in this place under the building that we should live. And they had the Brazilian champion. I was back in the day, it was 14. Put the gloves, they teach me, say, okay, let's spar. Next week you're gonna spar. I came. I threw a left cross, I knocked the Brazilian champion, a male adult. They look at me and said, you're gonna be a champion. So they took me to the gym, to the boxing gym in the favelas of Brazil. I used to train there. And I was doing that with champions. And they say, you're gonna become one of the best athletes. And then that's what I brought to MMA. But I believe I remember I had a chance to become a professional boxer after my Tank Abbott's fight. You know, my mom was approached, back in the day, my mom was my agent, and they approached by a lawyer from, I forgot, William Morris. They brought me Muhammad Ali to have lunch. So he came out of my room, Muhammad Ali jabbing, and then, wow, my dream. And then these guys lured me out for this millionaire contract, but had a lot of things in the contract. So I was kind of street smart. And then I remember I asked the question at lunch. I said, okay, what do you guys want me to do? I said, we want you to become boxer, but you're going to have to leave MMA. And I was in the rise, and I was watching. My dream is to see MMA big. UFC, we're going to be big. And then you have to leave your sport to become a boxer. I said, no, if I have to leave that, that's not right with my dream. I came here for that, and I want to see MMA big. And I say, can I do both? They say no. And they say, but you don't want this $1 million this $2 million contract. I say, okay, but you have the money now? And no. And because people don't know, but when you sign the money, a promoter have to pay for the other opponent. It's like it's a different business style. That I want to know how much I'm making, how much I'm paying tax. I was street smart, and I saw, okay, if you don't have the money now, and if I have to do this, I stick with what I'm doing is better. So I have to choose between both. And that was the dream. Like, I remember this has happened a long time ago. I was like 19, 20 years old. And here I am a couple of years later fighting the greatest boxer of all time in the place that I used to train 2 blocks from here. In this gym that was Sugar Ray Mosley. I saw him coming up. I saw him train with his father, and they trying to convince me to become a boxer. And this has happened. This is a reality in Staples Center. So, so whatever you're dreaming, cherish your dream. Make sure, don't let nobody put sand in your dream. Just work hard.
Vito, you mentioned your kids. What did they say about you coming back? They're supportive?
They're excited, man. They're excited. Everybody in the house in the diet, so they don't have to. Right now, I call my son. He's eating my food. I say, "You eating my food? You forgot your food, Dad. I gotta eat your food. It's gonna get bad." I say, "No." So it's a fun. They support me so much. Training every day. It's so the day I'm fighting Oscar, my son has one of the most important game I'm gonna have to watch online. But it's for the good reason, and next day he will be here.
Oscar said he has a 3-fight plan. You're the first one. Take care of business. He has 2 more. What's your plan? Is it 3 fights, 1 fight?
10 fights.
10 fights. Anybody you want to fight
Please.
in boxing right now?
So right now, Holyfield, get over, man. Come meet the Phenom. We fight you December. I'm ready for you in December.
Evander.
We're gonna have so many guys out there, but we have guys that I want to make legendary legacy fights. Guys that paved their way, not just here and just. We're not trying to sell tickets. We're trying to break record. Triller, Ryan, we're not trying to sell tickets. It's important for you to know we're trying to break records. We're trying to getting generations together. Maybe you don't have time with your grandparents. That's gonna be the time. Triller's gonna reserve. Listen, the day of the fight, a couple of days, you guys are gonna have the full week of entertaining where you can spend time with generation in your house, inviting your friends. It's gonna be, I cannot say anything more, but it's gonna be life-changing experience for all of us, including me and Oscar.
Should MMA promotions or big like UFC, Bellator, should they be allowing fighters to do both sports at the same time?
Who am I to tell what other business is supposed to be doing? It's like, if I can tell what I think, I want people to hire me. has a lot. So my experience and my knowledge costs a lot of money. I always telling people, what's the difference between a lawyer whose fee is $500 and the one is $100? Both know what they're reading, both know how they approach, but what's the difference? Experience. Experience is the difference. So I save my experience to feed Triller, feed Ryan teams, because I believe we are breaking and we are bringing fighters to our team, because in the end of the day, people want to get more paid, but it's not just get paid. It's just like how sustainable your business model. How you wanna approach your business in the sense of your identity, who you are as a fighter, who you are as a businessman. Because in the end of the day, we all businessmen. We all have to go back and pay our taxes. Raise our kids. So it's how called the business proposition. I think Triller is in a very good way right now.
Who are some of your favorite fighters right now in boxing and MMA that you enjoy watching?
It's so many. It's so unfair to say, but Oscar is one of them. A lot of guys. I love to see all of them. Everyone has something to add. How they move, how to stay on the pocket, the ones that go to the body. I always love the way a boxer has, the body and the head to work. An MMA artist has the whole body. And so it's a different way to strike. So I would say if you can learn how to strike with your hands, everything's open. But if you're a great kicker but you don't have great hands, you're not a good fighter.
Why is there so many MMA stars don't have good boxing?
Because it's like they're trying to become master of everything at once. So I fought John Jones. John Jones now is developing and striking, as you can see. But his punch is not hard. He doesn't have good punches. And he's not good in everything, but he's good in putting together. But he's not expert in everything, But he's a great guy putting together. So this generation of MMA, they're trying to put it together. But we have so many MMA athletes now. They are learning how to. There are dangers in many other ways, but a lot of guys can box in MMA. You'll be in shock how many guys can box now. They're learning how to box. They're learning how to stay on the pocket. They're learning the distance. It's much more vicious way of striking because it's such small gloves and we have to look for everything. So it's a totally different sport. It's almost like a rugby and a football. It's almost I can compare with this two sport. Rugby you cannot throw touchdowns, but a rugby can become a running back. Is where it's funny how football athletes say is like where the O-lines they can become a running back. So it's when they transfer to rugby. So you just gotta learn how to transition on the difference. Good.
Thank you, Vitor.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.